think everyone is joining in from the other sessions. Thanks for joining everyone. So super excited to have everyone here. This is the closing keynote of our 2025 Foundations event. We have a lot of great content left, so thanks for sticking with us. My name is Will Davis. I'm the CMO of CData, and I'm very fortunate to be joined by Saurabh Narang, who's the VP of Generative AI at ServiceNow. Saurabh, thank you so much for joining us at Foundations.
Very excited to be here, Will. Thank you so much.
All right. So we're going to get into the content here. Give me one sec. So this session specifically is focusing on how to rewire your enterprise with connected data for autonomous agents. And Saurabh, as we get started, you have a very interesting role at ServiceNow as the VP of Generative AI go-to-market, and you've also had some pretty interesting experience at AWS and KPMG. Before we jump into the content, would love to hear about your role at ServiceNow and also maybe the past experiences you had at AWS.
Thank you so much, Will. So as you said, I lead the AI go-to-market organization at ServiceNow. So think about me and my team as the one which are accountable for our Gen AI and Agentic AI business, especially achieving its business goals and targets. So naturally, we're very partner and customer facing. So I'm in front of customers day in, day out. Trying to understand what their business transformation strategy is, understand, what their overarching objectives are, help them, get a good handle of our AI platform at ServiceNow and how that can work, to help them achieve their business objectives, work on value, work on, key use cases, and just be close strategic partners to our customers as they're going through the transformation journey. And once they get some early wins and help them scale that across their enterprises, primarily what me and my team are tasked to do here at ServiceNow. Before joining ServiceNow, I was at AWS for 5 years. There I led the machine learning platform business as well as the Gen AI business eventually and scaled that to significant volumes.
Wow. AWS and ServiceNow are two of the leaders in AI and back in machine learning. So it's amazing to have that breadth of experience here at the event. So one of the things that we're seeing so much about or hearing so much about is agents and what's going to happen with when the world turns into this agentic economy and work is being leveraged by agents. How do you view that from your seat at ServiceNow? Where do you think work is going from ServiceNow's position?
Yeah, look, it's an amazing time to be alive, right? Like we, at this point, I can say, this is a massive revolution. It's once in a lifetime, once in a generation event what we're going through right now. Some people have called it the iPhone moment of AI. Some have called it, the internet moment. I think it's even bigger than that. This is bigger than industrial revolution, if you ask me, because that was about helping things get better, processes get better faster. This is entirely new way of working that we're looking at here. A new way of doing things that never existed before. Case in point is, Netflix has built its entire business on recommendations for the past 15 years. That's not something that was commonplace, let's say 20 years or so ago. Like we could never think about building an entire business on just personalizing content, right? And so you have many of these stories where there's new ways, new processes of doing, things that never existed before. Another example is autonomous cars. It might seem magic till some years ago, but it's commonplace now. And you see those autonomous taxis going around, and you see some of that in your own vehicles as well. That's coming. The technology is coming in. Nothing like that existed before, and all of that is coming through with the oncoming of the AI revolution that we're very lucky to be part of. It's also a good time to be humble about things, right? Like because things are changing so fast, so quickly. So it's important to be grounded. And fortunately, I've had this great experience of being at the vantage point of seeing how things have shaped over the past few years. Now I'm at a workflow company, so I think everything in terms of workflows, obviously. And for the longest time, the workflows were very scripted. They were deterministic. They would do, they would go from A to B really well and do the same thing again and again. That's how companies worked for a very long time. And about 12, 13 years ago, the RPA started becoming commonplace, and initial version of RPA were very basic. They were, in my opinion, a fancier version of Excel macros, but over time they evolved to get some real intelligence into the workflows. And then you saw machine learning, technologies coming into the workflows, with predictive flows, forecasting, etc. as well. Some of the earlier forms of natural language understanding and generation started getting into the workflows and made them even more intelligent. That happened on 2017, 2018 or so. And then you had the chat GPT moment, but almost 3 years ago at this point, when the workflows started getting assistive. So now you can basically have get GenAI technologies into the workflows, make them help you do the job better. So that was a pretty big step. And now where the workflows are going is completely agentic, and they already are there to a certain extent. And it's going to continue on this journey for the foreseeable future, where it's not just about doing a task better through ML. It's about reimagining the entire process altogether, right? With AI agents being at the center of it, looking at a problem that comes in, assessing the problem, developing a plan to execute that problem, breaking down that plan into manageable steps, and executing each step along the way, self-reflecting on that execution to accomplish a business goal with human in or not in the loop, right? That's amazing, right? And that's where the world is moving towards, and that is why I'm very excited to see how this is coming together.
Yeah, one of the things I admire a lot about ServiceNow is the company could have looked at AI as an agent specifically as very, negatively towards their business. Like all of our workflows, all the things that we've established over years and years and years are now being completely disrupted by agents. And what are we going to do about it? And it's been really refreshing to see how ServiceNow has fully embraced that and leaned into it in a serious way. It's been really impressive. So talk me through what does this agentic future look like for ServiceNow, and how are you building towards that?
Yeah, one of the things we're doing, one thing that I want to get grounded first is, our innovation velocity. We've had, for the past 15 years or so, 2 major releases every year. We call them, family releases. We just went through the Zurich release that happened last week. In addition to that, we had quarterly store releases as well. And the reason I'm saying all of this is to help you understand how much we're investing in AI, which I'll get to in a moment. When it comes to AI, we've been having AI capabilities on a platform over the past 7-8 years, starting with basic conversational machine learning capabilities, and then adding with every release we added more and more capabilities, as you can see on the screen here. 2 years ago, we released what we call as Now Assist, which is a suite of GenAI capabilities built into the platform with the Vancouver release. And at that point, the pace of innovation just skyrocketed. Instead of waiting for every store release or quarter or every family release, we were having major releases every quarter. So every quarter, we were doubling the capability of Now Assist, our GenAI product, essentially, getting all of that innovation to a customer much more faster, quicker. So that went on for quite a while. It's still going on. And then earlier this year, we released our first GA product for AI agents, and that was with the Yokohama release, which you see on the screen here. And at that point, our pace of innovation accelerated even further. So we're not waiting for a quarter to pass by to double the capabilities, but we're basically releasing newer capabilities for AI agents every few weeks, right? And that is just an unheard of release cycle, but that's how the industry is moving fast, and we have to be, at least be at that pace, if not faster than that pace, to make sure that we're getting the latest, greatest innovations in the hands of our customers.
Wow. And I'm imagining the company the size of ServiceNow and with the sophistication of the customers that you work with, that pace of innovation is pretty difficult to pull off or transition into. So that's super impressive. And in the conversations that we've had, you've talked about grounding customers in the market in terms of how to think about ServiceNow around these 3 pillars. Do you want to speak to those pillars and how that differentiates ServiceNow from how other companies are approaching that?
Absolutely. Look, every vendor out there, whether it's a cloud service provider or a SaaS vendor, is out there selling AI agents. Because to your point, like that's the future. That is a present and it's the future. It's probably the most important area of investment, not only for us, but for a lot of vendors out there. So how do you differentiate yourself in that market, right? Like how do you say, okay, what's your value proposition? In a lot of ways, the agentic AI revolution has sort of played into the strengths of ServiceNow. We are a workflow company day in, day out. Like that's what we have done I can confidently say better than anyone else in the world for the past 2 decades. And workflows really solve that last mile problem when it comes to adoption of AI, because you can have an amazing POC, but how do you take that POC to production? It's going to be through the workflows. You can create your own custom workflow, or you can build AI into the workflow, which is what we are doing. Which brings me to this slide here, to your point where we have three major pillars here. It's the data, AI, and workflows. Our overarching strategy and vision is to be the AI platform for business transformation for any enterprise. And for us to be true to that vision, we have to start at the data layer. We have to have a view of the entire organization's data, not just the data that sits in the ServiceNow platform. So that's why you see we're working very hard on this product called Workflow Data Fabric. It's already out in the market. What Workflow Data Fabric does really, really well is to give a snapshot of the data that sits outside the ServiceNow platform in any enterprise, manages the data that sits inside the platform, and then creates a semantic data relationship model. How is data associated with each other? How does it make sense? Creates that relationship map that powers everything else on the platform. And think about how powerful the platform becomes when it has a view of the entire organization's data and it can make sense and intelligence of that data. That's where the journey starts, right? It starts at the data layer and it powers our analytics, our workflows, our GenAI capabilities with Now Assist, and our AI agents as well. And then that brings me to the second pillar, which is with AI, we have released, a number of pre-built AI agent use cases already on our platform. These are out-of-the-box use cases. Customers can get started, and then they can leverage the power of Workflow Data Fabric to power these use cases. And then if they don't want to get started with out of the box, they can leverage create their own AI agents through a no-code interface through our AI Agent Studio. So the no-code interface, you need to be a subject matter expert. You don't need to be a machine learning expert to create these use cases. And customers are leveraging that to essentially create agents within under an hour, test them and validate them, and then get them out to production. Then we have something called as Control Tower, which is essentially our solution to manage, monitor, control, assess AI agents across the environment with a ServiceNow third party. We're also very, very focused, and a lot of vendors are focused on A2A and MCP as well. Like with A2A, it's crucial for us to enable our agents to talk to other agents from other providers as well. That's something that we are very heavily focused on as well. Orchestration is a big topic in the market these days. How do you do agent orchestration? And that's something that we have worked on extensively to create our agent orchestration framework, which can orchestrate agents from ServiceNow or third party, etc. as well. All of this goodness is then built right into our workflows, which puts our AI in the flow of work. And that's an important concept to understand, because it saves the customers the pain, the headache, the investment that they need to make to get AI into production and then scale that adoption. We have solved that problem already, and that's why the adoption from our customers is very quick. So overarching strategy of our enterprise-wide data, powering our AI, powering our workflows, touching every part of customer's organization, back office IT, front office CRM, anything and everything in between. That's what our vision is. That's what's resonating very well in the market.
Yeah, it's really impressive. I mean, I have knowledge of ServiceNow as specifically around ITSM, but the strategy that you have sort of built out at the company is obviously far more reaching and encompassing across multiple different business functions and across more strategic areas than just IT service management. And the other thing, it seems to be winning in the market. The customer reactions around this strategy and what you're able to deliver to market seems to be winning. Maybe you can talk about why this is, and I guess we have the Gartner results here, but how are you guys differentiating yourselves in terms of other companies and other approaches out in market?
Yeah, so a few things here. Look, we're grounded in the customer's data, and I'll go back to this conversation on data again and again in our talk, because that is where everything starts, right? Like, it is critical to have access to the organization's data, breaking down the silos, breaking down the departmental boundaries. And that's where, something like ServiceNow shines really well, because we have that CMDB, database, where we can have access to every asset in a customer's environment, and then specific around that asset. That's where we are grounded in that data. That sets us apart. Customers have generally had a platform for a number of years, and so they build all kind of workflows, catalog items, subflows, scripts on top of it. And when you enable AI agents, it uses all of that investment the customer has made in the platform over the past few years, right? So it just enhances the usability of the platform. And third is I'll go back to my point of, we're building the AI into the workflows, and that helps our customers adopt AI very quickly and seamlessly. And that's why you see in the rating here, we just came out a few weeks ago. Gartner just ranked us on, as number one in not only building but managing, agentic use cases in our customers' environment. And look, that just speaks to the, sometimes even when customers look at it, they're surprised. But then when they look at our strategy, they're like, that makes a lot of sense. And that's the reason why we are ranked number one, because we're getting the customers to value much more quickly. In fact, our AI agent in a GenAI product is the fastest selling product in the history of ServiceNow. And that speaks a lot because ServiceNow as a company has been growing very fast.
Wow, that's so impressive. And then at scale that you are at, that's incredibly impressive. So one of the things that when I talk to companies and we battle this internally ourselves is that innovation in AI is moving at this pace that we've never seen before. And how do companies think about what investments, what decisions they need to make internally, while the world around them, it seems like there's a new innovation that is breaking the previous innovation from 3 months ago. It seems like every 3 months there's something that's net new that changes your whole mind frame around how to think about this. What advice, given you talk to so many companies around how to develop AI and agentic strategies, what advice do you have for organizations to stay ahead of the pace, or at least keep pace with what's going on in the AI landscape?
Thanks, Will. Look, great question, and one that probably has been asked many times across many different folks, right? So I'll try to synthesize all of that answers into something of what I have learned. By no means this is a fully baked list, and there could be others as well. But look, there are a few things that are very, very, very obvious, right? Getting executive sponsorship at an organization to become AI first, AI native, or lead with AI is critically important, and that has to work backwards from the organization's business transformation objectives. Critically important that it doesn't start with technology, it starts with the business, right? There was a time 2 years ago, and I was in the middle of all of this, when the first wave of GenAI came, where I was sitting in the offices of top model providers, and organizations would just come and say, hey, take tens of millions of dollars and just give me access to billions of tokens. But they would never focus on use cases. And when you ask what are the use cases, they're like, we don't know. We'll figure it out. They were buying a hammer, and then they're trying to find a nail for that hammer. And so unsurprisingly, last year was all about, hey, where's the ROI? The boards were asking, where's the ROI? There was no ROI, with little ROI. So I think everybody's learned from that. Now customers are getting smarter about, hey, I want to figure out where, what are the use cases that I need to enable, and then work backwards from that. So it's critically important to associate AI back to your business objectives and understand the use cases you want to focus on and then execute on that. That's first and foremost. Secondly, it's, again, the data foundation, right? So data and infrastructure readiness is critically important as well. Is your data in a place where it can be usable for enabling AI agents? It doesn't have to be perfect. There is no definition of a perfect data. And honestly speaking, if you're waiting for your data to be perfect, you're going to miss out, right? So you have to be able to be comfortable to enable your AI agents, give them the context, give them the connectivity, give them the organizational, history and context of the data and the policies, and then enable the AI agents. I think that's critically important. I talked about interoperability, which is critical, for agentic use cases to be making sure that it's not just related to, executing a task within a platform. It has to be cross-boundary, cross teams, etc. as well. So protocols like A2A, MCP become critical there as well. Governance was all the way important along, as we were going through the AI journey for the past few years, but it's even more critical now with the onset of AI agents. So think about a situation where you're in your office and there are random people who are coming around and just snooping around. Would you be comfortable with that? You won't be. Now with AI agents, it's taken to the next level. You can't even see those AI agents. Anybody can create those AI agents. They can float around. They can be looking around where they shouldn't be, even when let's say when you're sleeping, or you may not notice what's happening. So governance, control, assessing, which AI agents you have, what is the inventory of those AI agents, right? Where are they located? Where are the life cycle? Are they safe, secure, reliable, responsible, fair, unbiased? These are critical things that organizations have to begin with at the
Mhm.
onset right now,
Mhm.
and don't consider that as an afterthought. Otherwise, there'll be serious risk you're inheriting. Nothing can be accomplished in today's world when it comes to agentic AI and Gen AI without organizational change management. That is an
Mhm.
aspect that are still, in my opinion, underestimating. You can get the greatest technology, you can give them all the data, get all the governance, but if you're not training your employees on how to leverage them, they're going to be a shiny tool where people may go there and may not go there from time to time, and then you won't get the ROI, and then there'll be frustration all across. So change management, upskilling workforce is critically important. And then it's also important to understand, clearly articulate the business value associated with these use cases with clear ROI. For example, reduction in mean time to resolve incidents, or improving self-service deflection, or reducing the case volumes, incident volumes, or improving the triaging of the incidents that are coming. Some metric has to be objective metric has to be associated, and those metrics have to be tracked regularly to see if those metrics are being achieved or not. And once
Mhm.
you're comfortable with those metrics, then you can scale the impact across the board with vertically scaling those use cases, horizontally scaling with other use cases as well.
Yeah, it's interesting to hear, your perspective on this. There's so much out there in the media and on social media, especially, where people are saying, "Hey, the managers in the future are just going to be managers of agents, not individuals." And so um, there is some truth to that, in the sense of, you can't have agents, that are acting without a governance oversight and way to ensure that they're doing the right work at the right time. And that's a, challenging threat for a lot of organizations, or a challenging opportunity for a lot of organizations to take advantage of. So then, as organizations are setting up their structure and their foundation and figuring out how to scale, they need to have the opportunity to continually take in innovation as it comes out in the market. What are some of the ways that you think organizations can most effectively be set up to do that?
Yeah, it's a great question, Bill. Look, again, the answer can be different if you are different people. From what I see in the market right now, I'll just go to your point of there's so much happening, right? Like this, it's just hard to keep track of it. You will be doing yourself a disservice if you have a, sort of a static, large stack, which is immovable, right? Like you got to have a modular, flexible stack, and you have to figure out what stack is for which use cases. For let's say if you're a life sciences company and you're in the business of drug discovery, you're going to have Jenny, you're going to have you know um, GPUs from across the board, and then you will have AI models which are working on those GPUs. But you cannot just be wedded to one particular model. Tomorrow there might be an open source model that might be coming through, which you might want to explore and experiment with. There might be another closed source model from a provider that be coming through. So having a static stack will not allow you to do that. Having a modular, flexible stack will allow you to do things like that. That's for some of the top line use cases. For a bottom line use case, service management, etc. Having a platform like ServiceNow will allow you to not only get that modularity, but also build flexibly on top of that as well. So to figure out what use cases you're tackling, and how flexible that stack can be. But having a static stack is a no-go in my opinion these days, and that leads to the fact that it'll allow you to continuously experiment with new models, not only models, but new frameworks, LangChain versus Crew versus AutoGen versus others that are coming up. Also, as an extension, your governance cannot be a static, mechanism, a static framework as well. The governments and regulatory authorities are grappling with the fact to how do you govern this, these new
Mhm.
technologies. They've come up with an initial set of regulations. By no means they're going to be the final set of regulation. Their regulation is going to change every now and then. So governance has to be able to adapt to that, regulations. It has to be flexible enough to, assess the newer risks that are coming in and how to tackle those risks and how to tackle that, right? So you have to have a very, not only a robust governance and risk framework, but an adaptable and flexible risk framework as well. And then you have to have strong partnerships across the board, whether it is with SaaS providers like ServiceNow, or with model providers, or with framework providers. You gotta have the strong relationships that you can leverage as you're going through this, flexible, modular, dynamic journey for the next few years.
Great. And I know you have a customer meeting that you gotta run to in 10 minutes. So we'll try to get to the remainder of this content fairly quickly. But one of the things that you must see a ton is when you talk to companies that are looking at the ServiceNow agentic stack and AI products, and what are the key trends that they have in terms of like issues that they have organizationally that are inhibiting their ability to adopt AI effectively? What are some of the things that you see out in the market?
Yeah, so there are a few trends here, and I've kind of curated them for the discussion today. Look, I already talked about agent operability. I think that goes without a doubt. Like at this point, if you have agents who are just working in a particular platform or a particular system, that's not going to work. That might solve some use cases, but organization-wide, you need agents to be operable between each other. So being flexible with A2A protocols and others that are coming up is critical. We already talked about governance, right? Like lead with governance here. Like don't make governance an afterthought and then wait for risks to come through, and then that's not going to be helpful at all. Space is moving really fast, so have a governance framework that you can that you can leverage. The third one is interesting, right? Like so there's a view here that hey, we will enhance the existing processes by by just ingesting agentic AI into it. Yes, that's true. You can get incremental productivity gains there for sure, 30-40%. But look, if you're looking for 2x, 3x, 5x, 10x productivity gains, which is the promise of AI agents, you got to rethink about your processes to begin with, right? The existing processes are optimized for humans. They're not optimized for AI agents. And AI agents, by definition, are going to enhance and make these processes more efficient. So let's rethink the processes to begin with, without human, with or without human intervention. But which are the ones which are majorly going to be executed by AI agents? That's an opportunity there. We talk about change management, how critical that is for not only getting AI into an organization, but scaling the use of AI within the organization. So that's something that I think organizations need to pay a lot of attention to. They're looking for real adoption and ROI. Look, we talked about data as well, and that is that has an that's an undercurrent in the whole conversation, right? Like we have to make sure that organizations have the right data, which is broken down the silos, broken down all organizational boundaries, and that's critical, right? But don't wait for your data to be perfect. Like if you do that, your competitors, which are probably more nimble and much more faster, some of the upstarts, they'll just go ahead, right? Like so, start with data which is in a decent shape, and have GenAI agentic AI use cases on top of that. And the process of enabling GenAI and agentic AI use cases will improve your data itself. So it becomes a virtuous loop of improving your data quality, as you go through this, getting AI into your environment. And lastly, I'll say all of this, look, everything is moving super fast. You may like it or not, but velocity is really the only moat that I see with the with the organization. Like everybody talks about what's a moat right now. Right now, it is the way I see it. It's velocity. It's the speed. Yeah. It's the speed of innovation. It's the speed of collaboration. It's the speed of inventions. It's the speed of getting in new technologies and enabling a process to move fast. So iteration, speed of iteration is super critical now.
Yeah, it's such a crazy time right now. Every organization has to move at such a rapid pace to make sure that they're making the most of this moment. So it's exhilarating and also somewhat scary at times in terms of how fast organizations need to move. But it's been a really exciting time to be a part of it. You talk a lot about governance throughout the presentation. You referenced the AI control tower as a critical component of the ServiceNow platform. Maybe let's go into the AI control tower and specifically how ServiceNow approaches governance, because I think this is something that organizations are all trying to figure out themselves. And so it'd be really interesting to get your perspective and how ServiceNow is approaching it with the AI control tower.
Sure. So I'll touch base a little bit on the control tower, but overarchingly, look, it's important to understand a few aspects here, right? Like, is your AI strategy aligned to your business objectives? I think that's the core part of it, right? So, so there are multiple components there. If you look at the ServiceNow platform itself, it's grounded in what we call a CMDB. It's a configuration management database. It's a collection of configuration items, which has, essentially every asset in the organization. It has information on that, right? So that's the grounding. So that kind of enables us to look at governance more holistically. And again, as I said, it has to start with the overarching business strategy. Is our AI aligned to that or not? So that's one thing that is enabled by the control tower. So that helps organizations get started. But then once you're on your AI journey, how do you manage, monitor, govern, assess the risk associated with AI across the board is critically important as well. There are NIST requirements, GDPR requirements, existing controls, the security vulnerability that could be associated with AI. Somebody might be downloading an agent and then running around. That agent might be running around creating vulnerabilities in the organization. How do you assess that? That is another thing that is can be enabled by control tower. The third one is, value. Are you getting the value out of your AI agents and your agentic stack? Like, is it really saving you the money it's supposed to? Is it adding, helping you do the work faster? Is it improving your customer CSAT? Is it helping you innovate, right? Like, those are the KPIs that need to be tracked and that can be tracked systematically there. And the fourth one is the overall AI execution, the workflows to, get, agentic AI into the platform, get them approved by Center of Excellence, risk team, legal teams, etc. as well. Manage the entire life cycle, and then retire the AI. And that's like, these are the four pillars that we as a company look at, and what we enable our customers with. And then generally, this is what customers are worried about. Like, they're worried about all of these things as they get AI ingested into the environment. But look, one thing I want to keep going back to is all of this is in has to have a solid foundation of data, right? And it's, to my earlier point, it's not just about breaking the data silos and boundaries. It's about having the connectivity of that data at the right place at the right time to enable these agentic use cases. And that is critical for us to get started, even getting off the ground. So I'll just stop with that.
Thanks, Rob. And you teed me up perfectly. We've had the good fortune of working with you as we've brought a new product that we announced today, Connect AI, to market, and getting your insight, getting your input in terms of how we should be approaching it, what are the things we should be doing from positioning perspective, and how do we think about the product. It's been really great to get your perspective on it. And as our company conference, it'd be remiss if I didn't give some sort of plug to Connect AI, which we launched today, which is the first managed MCP server platform with 300 plus connections. And anyone who wants to go out and start using it can go do so at the link on our website here. But data is such a key part of AI initiatives, and it'd be interesting to get your perspective on how do you think Connect AI and what we're trying to solve with this product, how do you think that helps organizations that you're working with in terms of connecting enterprise data into their AI tools and technologies?
Yeah, look, Will, as you said, right, like we've been, had the good fortune of working with yourself and your team on this journey, and I played around with this myself, and it is such an easy process to get set up with the connectors, and then get going on your agentic Gen AI use cases. It just takes the heavy lifting out of the whole process, right? Like, you don't have to figure out the connectivity, you don't have to figure out the protocols, you don't have to figure out how do you secure the connection, scale them. How do you govern them? Things, all the things that you've done over the past decade and a half or so, with your connectors, you bring all of that goodness into your MCP connectors as well. And I think that's pretty path breaking. And I think that's something that I feel organization will have a lot of value in. Great.
Well, Saurabh, thank you so much for being part of Foundations. It was tremendous to get your insights, your takes on what's going on in the market, what's ServiceNow's perspective on how to approach AI and some of the challenges you see your customers are facing and how to address them. So appreciate the time you taking to be part of the event. And we have a pretty significant Q&A, but I think we're out of time. So we'll make sure that those questions get to you over time, and we'll get back to you. But thank you so much.
Thank you, Will.
Great, thanks, Rob. So moving ahead, we have one last session. So thanks everyone for being here to the end of Foundations 2025. Up next, we're really fortunate to have Mike Albritton, our SVP of Cloud, joining Philip Stevens, who is at Google Cloud and is one of the original founding engineers of the A2A protocol that Google has brought to market. And they go into the evolution of A2A, some of the recent developments that are happening in that space and where they think it's moving forward, and how organizations should be thinking about A2A as complementary to MCP. So we'll move to that conversation that was pre-recorded earlier this week, and see you there. Thanks.